right, so my number 6 is Wanderer by Cat Power. Cat Power is like a wicked sad indie singer-songwriter. But this is not that album, and it kind of caught me by surprise because I'm used to Cat Power being either like super bold and angry or super depressing. This just like cuts through the bullshit. It's a really no bullshit album.
Okay.
She's just very like open and honest in every song, just kind of about her feelings, on her relationships, on herself. Plus, she's musically brilliant. Like, she really is. And this album is a representation of that 1000%. There's one of the songs in that album, she ends up like praising Jesus in the middle of the song. Like, not stopping singing, but like she starts like dedicating the song to Jesus. And I was like, all of a sudden on my first listen, I'm like, am I listening to Christian rock, but also Cat Power right now? Like, it was just so weird, but I loved it. You know, like, usually that would kind of kill an album for me, because, like, I don't know, I just don't like it when, like...
I don't want religion in my music. Or, like, overtly religious.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want, like... Just like I don't really even like overtly, like, political music. But suddenly I was just, like, taken by it. It's just a trip. It's a trip of an album. Very whimsical. It just fluctuates from, like, sometimes it's, like, super duper indie pop. Sometimes it's, like, ridiculously, like, folky. Sometimes it's, like, almost, like, choir singing. Like, it's a crazy album. I don't know. She's just brilliant. Like, she really is. Cat Power, like, is usually, like, has me in my feelings, but this album, I just, like, enjoyed listening to it. It wasn't, like, an emotional experience. It was more of just, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It was more of just, like, a journey. Like, this is an album that you want to listen to the whole thing. Because even though all of the songs are so different, like, the experience of just, like, the up and the down and, like, just the cutting honesty through the whole thing, it's amazing. So there's not one song on this album I don't like.
Compared to the albums that you don't want to listen to the whole entire...
Well, yeah, because there's some albums, like we've been saying, there's some albums where it's, like...
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying this is an album you want to sit through.
Okay.
Like, you want to listen to the whole thing at once. Not like you don't want to listen to, like, you know, like, this is an album that's worth the full listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Man, that's your 6, though. That's crazy. Oh, God. Well, my 6 is finally getting back to a little bit of metal. And this one is Riverside, titled Wasteland. Now, this was weirdly one that I wasn't even thinking about listening to. I'm, like, subscribed to some YouTube channels with metal, and I watched one song by this band, and I really enjoyed it, but I was like, okay, whatever. I'll listen to it at some point in time. And then, weirdly enough, every single app that I was using was advertising this CD to me. And it's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll finally listen to it, okay? And it's a fantastic album. Now, there's a little bit of backstory. I've never listened to this band, but I found out that during the process of this album, one of their lead members, Peter Radzinski, died. And this whole entire album, they could have had another person, like, take his place, but it was just a trio. And it, like, really shows on a lot of songs. So there's, like, a song, an instrumental, one of my favorites, called Struggle for Survival. And the idea is he was, I believe, a guitarist, or like a rhythm guitarist, and there's one point in the song where it's just bass, an electronic guitar solo, and a drums, and it feels like it's missing something because there's no chords there. But, like, it also is like, wow, that's, like, what that feels to be without somebody like that. And, like, this whole entire album is talking about the ideas of death and mourning loss and not knowing if you can go on. Like, there's The River Down Below is talking about how on the surface you might be happy, but you're struggling with these thoughts of even, like, being alive, you know, like, knowing if I can go on without this person. The whole entire album is fantastic. The feel of the progressive is a little bit like Rush-ish, or like early Dream Theater, maybe a little bit of Jethro Tull, like more on the classical side of progressive music, but fantastic throughout. And the really cool thing on the intro and the outro, so the first song is called The Day After, and the closer is called The Night Before. And it's like basically trying to tie everything together about the day when this person died and like the feelings afterwards. Phenomenal. Even the ender, The Night Before, is this like piano ballad that is just like, close your eyes, we're here for you, it's time to sleep. A fantastic journey throughout. It is my favorite progressive album of the year. if you saw some earlier videos for my top 50 list, there's another album out there called Holy Hell that my brother introduced me to, which had a similar thing where someone had passed away. I'm not saying that that one is necessarily worse. I think it's just a different way of dealing with the idea of loss, and this one resonates with me a little bit more.
I think this one approaches it better.
Yeah.
Almost. Okay. I mean, I'm not, I don't listen to a lot of prog. I don't listen to a lot of metal. I'm interested. I want to hear that song that you were talking about where you can, like, almost hear the missing element in it. Because that's just such a profound way of handling that. Like, the fact that they didn't, like, bring in a guitarist to work on this album with them, that's just, like, I don't know. It's, like, more, like, not moral, but, like, it's just really, like, cool of them, Really, really cool of them. Because they're, like, prioritizing their friend and, like, old bandmate over, like, maybe what would have been the best interest of the music. And, like, the fact that you think it brings something extra to it is kind of incredible. Really profound. Mm-hmm. I like that. It's different.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're in our top 5 now.
Yeah. Wow. We're getting there.
We are slowly but surely getting there.
we both just are such talkers. Okay, so my 5, Wide Awake by Parquet Courts.
I knew you were going to say that.
Parquet Courts, really cool band, and this album just jams. It really does. They're always just very raw. I like listening to them because it makes me feel, like, not so crazy, Like, they'll, like, complain, and, like, it's just kind of, like, angry talk music almost at times in this album especially, and it's kind of nice to just listen to people being pissed off, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's just fun.
Like, even on the first song, they're like, fuck Tom Brady!
Exactly. And I mean, like, whatever. I'm not going to touch on that, but just ridiculous instrumentals on this album. Crazy instrumentals all throughout. I couldn't dislike anything I heard on that album. And definitely Mardi Gras Beads. Fantastic song. Mardi Gras Beads is a fantastic song. So it's almost had to start a fight / out of patience. It's just it like encourages you almost to be an asshole. Like, and it's just, you don't really get that from a lot of music. It's kind of something I like about Pavement as well as Parquet Courts. And I think just, like, Parquet Courts, they just keep putting out these, like, really vibrant, like, very in-your-face albums that are kind of, like, groundbreaking. I like listening to.
I didn't like it the first time through. I listened to it again because it was on my list to try it again. I enjoy it more. It definitely wouldn't be in my top 25.
Yeah.
But I enjoy a lot of what you're talking about. I enjoy the conversationalist nature. I feel it's very fun and cheesy at times. Like, even like the art of the CD, it reminds you of, like, the early, like, 70s and 60s cartoons. The art feels like old Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I feel that.
So,
I definitely feel that.
And I feel that throughout the album, like, the whimsical nature. Even, like, on Violence, where, like, he's just, like, rambling, and then the chorus is very monotone. It works very well. Even, like, he has kind of an Elvis Costello-ish kind of vibe of his voice, and I really like that. There's just some songs that just feel a little bit too weird at the end for me.
I understand that. Yeah, no, Parquet Courts, I mean, it is kind of weird. Like, definitely parts of it are super inaccessible, but it just, that doesn't kill any part of it for me. Mm-hmm. Like, Parquet Courts sounds like what it feels like to be drunk at a bar surrounded by, like, weird people, like, it's precisely what it feels like. Like, every time I listen to them, I picture myself at, like, a dive bar, and I'm like, like, just being kind of uncomfortable but also having fun. So yeah, that's my 5.
All right, well, my 5 is Esperanza Spalding, 12 Little Spells. Now, this was one that I found out came out very recently. Like, no one was talking about this CD at all. The only way I found out was through Rolling Stone when they did their top 50 list, and I'm like, holy shit, why didn't I hear about this? Not only did I miss this one, I missed another album that she put out a year before. It's like, how the fuck did I not hear about any of this? I love Esperanza Spalding. I've loved her since Radio Music Society and Emily's D Plus Evolution. If you watch my top list from, like, 2016, I want to say, it was, like, top 3 for that year. That one is very experimental in jazz, kind of like Herbie Hancock, where it's a little bit on the more modal side, but it still has that feel of like structure at times and some radio friendly songs. This one is completely experimental. This one kind of like screw harmonic nature at times, screw rhythm. We're just gonna do what we want. And this CD is literally about 12 parts of the body. Like there's a song about the eyes, there's a song about the ears, there's a song about the hips. And it feels kind of like free-form jazz or like very free-formed poetry at times, and I really enjoy that. The melodic nature of it is all over the place. It's some of the hardest melody lines I've ever heard. Like, I'm surprised that she can do this, but it's not as if there aren't some approachable songs. Thang is like a fantastic, funky, like gospel-y song, but just has some weird harmonic progression. There's Touch in Mine, which is the most simplistic song, but like the rhythm ideas are cool, the melody lines are beautiful, and it's when you have those simplistic parts that do have a little bit of a difference to it that the CD works so well. The latter half of the CD is kind of very experimental, so if you're not into that, I totally understand, but that doesn't break this for me. If anything, it feels like every song has its own feel and uniqueness to it that I just love.
That's really cool. I told you, I think we talked about this when we were first talking about like doing this together, and you mentioned that was like kind of up there for you. I remember I told you I'd never heard of Esperanza Spalding, and I didn't like her at first because I think she won like Best New Artist over someone I was like really rooting for like a couple of years ago. But I actually did give this album a listen to after you were talking to me about it, and it's crazy interesting. Like, it really is. I mean, I wouldn't put it on my top 10, but it is a really interesting album. She's such a talented musician, like genius level musician. And so I'm over my Esperanza Spalding grudge as of this album.
Fair enough.
I'm definitely gonna have to give some of her stuff, like her older stuff, a listen to, because this was like a really engaging, off-putting at times. Like you said, the latter half of the album is like really weird, like very bizarre, but it was a fun listen. She's good. She's good.